episode is brought to you ad-free thanks to all of our wonderful patrons. Get a ton of exclusive content, help us keep the show going by joining at patreon.com/shonenflop. And welcome to this episode of Shonen Flop, where we talk about manga and Shonen Jump that didn't make it big. I'm David.
I'm Jordan.
Next week, we'll be covering Mama Yu Yu if you want to read along with us.
Mama Yu Yu.
Be sure to join the discussion in our Discord and submit your 6-word summary. You can find a link to the Discord in our episode description and our website, shonenflop.com. But we're not here to talk about that. It is our 4-year anniversary, Jordan. So that means we are re-reviewing Guardian of the Witch, and we are joined by the amazing Brandon. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Hey.
Brandon, do you mind telling the listeners a little bit about yourself?
I am a professional manga letterer.
Hell yeah.
Whoa.
If you don't know what that means, I basically copy and paste the translation into the art. I pick the fonts, make sure all the text is centered. I handle sound effects and things like, art retouch, if there's like a sign that needs to be kind of like translated into English, or if we're like replacing sound effects, then, we have to erase the Japanese and kind of redraw where the Japanese used to be and put the English sound effects in. It's a whole thing. Yeah.
So, Brandon, from one way of looking at this, you technically wrote this manga.
In a way, I did. So if you can direct all of your hatred towards me if it means protecting the actual manga artist. I'll own up to all of it.
You were the final part of the writing chain.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as we know, big sarcasm alert, as you all know, all of us in the localization business, we all just love rewriting our manga and putting our grubby little fingers all over it.
It's so fun, isn't it?
Big sarcasm alert, if that is a joke.
Listeners, wait till you find out what has actually been going on in One Piece.
Yeah, it turns out our version's completely different.
Yeah.
I have so many questions for you. I'm trying to think of which one. What would you say is your favorite manga you're doing lettering for right now?
Oh, gosh, that is a good question. Oh, I was not expecting that one.
How dare he ask me a thoughtful question about my work?
Kaiju number 8, that feels like the lazy answer, but it's a little true. It's a little true.
Okay, now what's your all-time favorite?
Guardian of the Witch. That's why he's on the episode, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. My co-host just doesn't understand sometimes.
Still might also be Kaiju number 8. Whenever anybody asks me about like my work, I get the deer in the headlights look where I've forgotten everything I've done for the past 7 years.
How about I'll ask you a less stressful question? So one of the interesting innovations was the idea that someone realized, we can just use a different font to represent when someone's speaking a different language without having to make it awkward.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a favorite font you like to use to represent English text or something being said in English in a manga?
I actually don't think it's ever come up.
Oh, fuck me. I really thought that'd be funny. Okay. Well, now you can think about it.
I don't think that's the deer in the headlights thing, though. I genuinely don't know if that has come up in anything I've worked on.
No, but I feel you. If somebody was like, hey, Jordan, what's your favorite episode of Shonen Flop? I'd be like,
the one where I was there.
Yeah.
This one. This is actually my favorite
Actually,
episode.
it's your favorite episode, listener, because we care about the fans, and we also care about talking about this manga. So let's get into the manga details. Jordan, tell us about this masterpiece.
So this was written by Asahi Sakano, who was an assistant for Yuki Tabata of Black Clover and Hungry Joker, which was a previous episode and is bad.
With friend of the show, Trey Watson.
Friend of the show, Trey Watson. Sakano's other works include Kuro no Shinobi, which is a mini-series from Jump Giga about a modern-day ninja who had to take jobs instead of living the normal school life he deeply desires. Fire Beast Allen, 2019. That is another mini-series. MaxyBee does not know what this is about, but apparently the titular flame swordsman whose name is Alan.
Authentic Japanese name.
Incredible. Who looks exactly like the main character of Guardian of the Witch. The next one, though, is If I Can't Find Love, I'm Going to Die. How to Find True Love in 60 Days. From 2020, it's one volume published by Bunkyosha. It's apparently a self-help guide to love that was written as a manga. So I think this guy's doing all right romantically. At least I would hope so. Otherwise, he's not somebody I would like to learn this from.
I think 2020 is a bad year to release something called If I Can't Find Love, I'm Going to Die.
I agree. If I can't get out there and date, I'm gonna die.
Oh, God.
what's going on right now in the world? Anyway, the last one here is Beast King and Medicinal Herb. Wow. That's like Beast King and his pal Herb, who's medicinal. And by that, I mean he smokes that medicinal herb. From 2023 to, actually, it's still going. 2+ volumes on Manga 1. Sakano is actually only the artist on this one, and it surprises me that people were like, man, you know what was great about Guardian of the Witch? The art.
Yeah, the best part.
Well, just looking at the cover of Beast King and Medicinal Herb, like he leveled up. Like his art is a lot better.
Oh, this is so it's like a dragon. And have you ever read Dragon and Phoenix? Or sorry, Dragon and Chameleon?
David, you did it again. You did the exact same one again.
It's not my fault. It's the name of my Chinese restaurant. Have you heard of Dragon and Chameleon?
I've not.
Okay, so it's by the guy who made Amalgam Distortion, and it's like probably the biggest glow up I've ever seen.
Ooh.
It's about essentially a failed mangaka swapping bodies with Oda, and like Oda being like, okay, well, I guess I got to start from scratch and make the next One Piece. And this guy was a former Oda assistant, so it's like very semi-autobiographical.
That's great.
That's kind of awesome.
It's super good.
But yeah, we're not talking about any of that shit. We're talking about Guardian of the Witch, which ran from February 3rd, 2020 to June 22nd, 2020. It replaced Dr. Stone's reboot, Byakuya.
I worked on that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
How was it?
I don't read Dr. Stone, so I was confused, but it was fun.
That is so weird that they wouldn't have the same letter for both series.
And the series that replaced it is one of our favorite series we ever covered on this show, Hard Boiled Cop and Dolphin.
Oh, yes.
I worked on that.
Hell yeah.
That was a great manga.
You did a good job.
Thank you. It was enjoyable. That was almost like a full year it ran for, right?
Yeah. As I said, it's one of the best series we ever covered on this show.
It was.
I'm flattered for that, even though I have nothing to do with the quality of...
You wrote it, as we said.
As we've established. Wow, thank you. I did a good job.
You did a very good job. And the series that started at the same time as Guardian of the Witch are Undead Unluck, which is a hit, and Mashal, which was a hit, and the 9th episode of Shonen Flop, and we were still doing recommendation episodes.
Which we still do, but only on Patreon. Wink.
Yeah.
The next thing you wanted us to do on Patreon was a recommendation episode about Baki.
It's true. I forget things, and I am currently sitting in a closet with no AC. I am cooking, all right? I am cooking. So let me cook further. This ran for 19 chapters, 3 volumes. So it is not the U19 Club, it is the E19 Club. As in it equals 19.
All right, and let's hear what happened in those 19 chapters.
Let's get into the goddamn plot summary.
All right, so Brandon, please, I'm excited for you to be our inaugural guest for the first time. We are changing it, so our guest goes first for the plot summary.
Thank you for giving me a break.
All right.
Lay it on us.
The world of Uv is overrun by giant monsters called evils.
Great
The
name.
city-states within are protected by witches, teenage girls with strong magic powers given to them by seeds of evil, which will one day turn them into evils themselves. Manasfa is one of those witches, specifically one with fire powers, and she is looked after by her maid Nata and protected by her guardian Fafner. One day, the leader of the rectory in their town commands Fafner to kill Manasfa because she's about to turn into an evil. Fafner decides not to, grabs Manasfa and Nata, and escapes, saying they'll find a way to turn Manasfa into a normal human again. When they're out of town, Nata says there's a witch in another town called Noir, who rumor says was able to retire instead of dying as a teenager. So that's where they set off to. Is it Popcorn Jordan?
What a series. What a plot summary. Very well written. In the first town they reach, they encounter Gen and Ruli. Hey, Brandon, do you know if it's Gen or Jen?
I wanted to look it up and I did not. I think Gen. I'm just a guess though.
I'm a GIF over GIF guy, so I'm gonna go with Gen.
It is GIF.
Yeah.
I work for Giphy. That is the GIF company. It is pronounced GIF.
I don't care that the guy who created the format said it's GIF. He's wrong.
Yeah, he was wrong.
But yeah, Gen and Ruli, a Guardian and Witch combo, which is apparently a thing now. It wasn't before. It is now a thing. Also, like, Ruli has metal powers, and they're not relevant characters.
Yes.
Fafner and Manasfa and Nata have been branded deserters, so they have been dispatched to kill Fafner and Nata and bring Manasfa in. Even though Fafner and Manasfa can't fight together like the other two can, they still force a retreat retreat. The team then leaves the town to continue on their journey, and they run into Mr. Drake, an ex-Guardian turned scientist who fell in love with and killed his witch, and he seems to wear her skull around his neck.
Yeah, and he has like one of her hands, I assume, is like part of his sword.
It's like the pommel on his cane, kind of, but it's a cane sword. So it's like, yeah, it's interesting designs. Yeah, he trains them to use their powers to gather gooder and says that if Manasfa uses too much of her power, she'll turn into an evil. Oh no. They soon reach another city where the Guardian Claude immediately recognizes them because, oh my god, this made me so angry. These fucking idiots were wearing cloaks that only Guardians should have access to. Why are you still doing that? Why are you still wearing these fucking cloaks?
The series has a lot where if you think about some of their actions too hard, it just doesn't make sense.
You think about them a little bit. I got so mad. Claude and his witch with gravity powers, Spica, try and bring them in, Popcorn David.
Just then,
Manasfa. I know. It's a weird name.
Remembers that Mr. Drake gave her a magic pen that acts as an HP bar for how long she has left before she turns into an evil. Spica uses too much of her power, though, and starts to transform when the evil Rector shows up and tells Claude to kill her, which he can't do because there's a huge flaw where you have very emotionally concerned people being used as their executioner.
Right.
Which is just such a stupid fucking system.
They have one line where they say if they're not emotionally connected, then when they kill the witch, she'll like transform into an evil, even worse evil or something.
And that just goes right out the window.
But the guy had like his assassin squad killer because he's like, oh, well, main character's a wimp. Just have the fucking execution squad do it. So clearly it doesn't matter.
There's so much shit that just completely contradicts itself like 2 or 3 chapters later. This author did so much attempts at retconning. Like, you can't just start retconning things when you're under 20 chapters. What the fuck, dude?
But just then, I'm just going to call her Mana because that's really what her name is.
All right.
Just then, Mana remembers that Mr. Drake gave her a device to temporarily keep witches from transforming in the form of a blood transfusion or something. Oh, real convenient.
Just had that.
She's just like, oh, shit, I just remembered and never brought this up before.
Or needed to use it myself.
Oh, yeah, like, it probably would have been important to mention before, but nah. Like, here, we're just doing blood transfusions from the Guardian to the Witch so they can live longer.
I like to think that she guards me.
God.
Anyway, they need 30 minutes of time for the transfusion to work, but Fafner just punches him in the gut, and all his grunts throw down their swords because they like Claude more than him, and a few days later, he's arrested for tax fraud.
Which actually happens. That is not a joke. They literally, like, soon later, he was arrested.
Right off screen.
For tax fraud.
I love it. Fafner, Mana, and Nada then arrive in a new village to meet Aqua, a brand new witch with water powers. She's got to go soon to a city-state, and her dad, the mayor, is big sad because he never told her that witches gotta die. The team drag him over to tell her to say goodbye. He says she's gonna die, but Aqua's like, bitch, I already knew that because I read your diary. Flash forward 5 years, and Mana stands in front of a crowd and puts a ring on that turns her normal again. The end. And I still don't understand what the purpose of that Aqua chapter was when the author clearly knew he was getting canceled in the next chapter.
God, the last chapter.
Even at the time, I remember thinking like, huh.
What a pointless use of your second to last chapter.
It's so confusing because like they spend all this time talking about how being a witch is terrible, you know, like we want to stop people from being a witch, and then they're like, oh, she's going to be a witch. Let's send her off, okay?
Yeah.
We can poke holes at this story, but we do need to go through the characters.
We're not in the right section to do that yet. You're right.
So, Brandon, do you mind telling us about Captain Fafner?
Yeah, Fafner is an interesting one because he's a captain, or like, so he's somebody who is like simultaneously competent and incompetent at the same time, who is like built up to be like obviously this is to be a guardian of a witch and to sort of like be in this position where you have to form a bond with another person, but is also still very like immature and kind of bratty and kind of, you know, I feel like in a very typical shonen hero kind of way, sees the world in a very kind of naive and simple light, but is also, again,
why is every other... I'm sorry, I can't keep this in until the next section. Why is every other guardian aware of their real job except for Fafner?
Competently incompetent.
Oh my god.
Can we talk about how he's able to block explosives with a scabbard, which doesn't make any sense?
Yeah, no, it's just...
He has 2 thin objects that somehow are able to redirect explosive force.
I think what gets me really is like Fafner is shown to be hyper competent against really random goons, like crowds of goons. But the second it's like one guardian and one witch, he's like, man, I'm cooked. That's it.
Yeah.
I can't fight.
Like, it's weird because he's like supposed to be stronger than all these guys, but he's also clearly like 14.
That's the thing. It's what gets me about it is he is very like, he's got that typical like teenage, hero enthusiasm, but again, it's a weird mix with how he like his starting point feels like he is an experienced person who knows nothing.
I love how they tried to do the like Ennie's lobby, or not the Ennie's lobby, the fucking, what is it? The fucking thing in One Piece when everyone dies.
Oh, the Buster Call.
The Marineford thing at the end where Luffy goes, I'm weak. And they literally did it in like chapter like 18 of this manga. Or it was like chapter 9. And I was like, how are you fucking in like the first volume of the series? And he's already has hands and knees crying about how he's not strong enough to protect everyone.
Oh, God.
It's funny because they had basically been through one fight with one other Guardian Witch pair.
Which he won.
And then like a bunch of monsters, which they knew were out there.
God, it's so stupid.
They knew were out there and he'd fought before.
Yeah.
And she had fought before. She had literally killed a shitload of her. That is her job, to kill evils.
They explain it away by like being up in the castle like boosts your magic power. And so now that they're out in the boonies, it's just like, whoa, you suck now. There's a weird reset that seems to happen. Like everybody starts operating on one brain cell the second they leave.
This is more like Guardian of the Retcon.
Guys, she had the high ground.
Exactly, yeah.
We do have to move on. So speaking of Manasfa, Jordan, do you mind telling us about the little bratty witch?
Manasfa, first of all, her hair annoys me.
Oh, Bewitched would have been a good cover art for this.
For some reason, her hair just annoys the shit out of me. It's like, what do I say about this character? She's kind of an asshole. She has firepower. She's constantly like complaining, but not at the same time. It's like, she's lovable. She's lovable and she likes to eat a lot. And her and like Fafner have like, I almost said FAFSA.
God, yeah, he's a student loan.
He's a student loan. Her and Fafner have like this energy together, which is, I would describe everything in this series as generic as fuck. Their relationship is generic as fuck. Like, oh man, they hate each other, but do they really? Nah, they don't actually hate each other. They actually care, but they still insult each other.
They're just a bunch of tsunderes.
Oh, of course.
Oh God, they're all tsunderes, but like so much less interesting.
God, and she's just hungry all the time.
Oh God. Again, like, I don't know how to describe her character. Arguably, she doesn't have one.
Yeah, so we can move on. Speaking of, even worse is Nahata, where even the author's like, why the fuck do I have this character here?
Yeah.
Why was she there? What was her... I don't know what the series would have lost if she was just removed.
I agree, but she's, of the three, she is like the closest to being interesting, I think.
But then the author just completely forgets about her in the second half of the series.
Yeah.
I liked that one bit in chapter like 2 or 3 where she's just like, oh yeah, I lockpicked and found out all this information. There's a nugget of like a really interesting character there who's like, again, like secretly the most competent and is kind of the most level-headed one of the group.
I did think it was really funny how in chapter 2, like all of chapter 1, she's like, you can't change a witch back into a human. You can't do that. And then as soon as they get out of into the wasteland or whatever, she's like, oh, by the way, I actually did kind of hear something about how you can change a witch into a human. Okay.
I can at least understand that it is such a long shot that it doesn't bear mentioning, but now that they're in this situation, now that they're out here, well, this is the one lead we've got, so we might as well. But
I guess.
Yeah, I can understand that any normal person would be like, yeah, this could,
yeah.
But probably not. It's not worth the trip.
Yeah, and then finally, Brandon, do you want to tell us about Drake, who I would say is the best character in the series by a very substantial margin?
He's the mentor, and I'm really shocked that he didn't die at the end.
Yeah.
Because he is, with the hat, he's got a little bit of like the Zeppeli energy from JoJo Part 1, but like he just has the tired dad energy.
He reminds me of Faust from Shaman King.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just walking around with his dead wife's skull hanging around his neck. He throws hypodermic needles at like the evils to pacify them, and then never again.
He has like magic alchemy, basically, you know?
Which is also, if he can just do that, why do they need the witches when he overpowered a witch using this technique?
I don't know. I don't know why they need the witches. They apparently don't, because they send witches out of the city-states all the time. Like, I don't know what's happening in the town where Gen and Rilu live. What's going on right now? They're not there.
Oh, yeah, they just come back and the entire city's been massacred because they left.
Yeah,
They're just like, well, we left. Yeah, clearly they weren't that important.
Well, they had to have had some plan because they were about to execute her.
Yeah.
I also love how this series is just set in England. Like, they show the map.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like Hunter x Hunter where it kind of looks like the world. It has the North Ireland border on the map.
I didn't notice that.
What complex political events occurred where there is a North Ireland divide in this fictional universe?
God.
Again, it's just a sign the author didn't actually think about anything when he was plotting this world out.
Yeah, the world building it's real first draft.
But I think that's a sign. Let's get into why it failed and formally talk about this.
Yeah.
All right, so Jordan, I know you are very excited to talk about the issues of this series, which I think we've only gotten more mad since we read this 4 years ago. So what stands out to you are the issues?
Yeah, I mean, the 2v2 system, I'm sorry, it doesn't feel like he had that idea in chapter 1. It makes no fucking sense. The series is short, so they only run into 2 other Guardian Witch combos, but they're very aware that this system exists and they've been practicing. And they're to the point where they're like, yeah, the purpose of a Guardian and a Witch are to empower themselves, but like, they never mention it. Like, apparently Manasfa and Fafner were the exception there, who were not doing that.
Yeah, it's just the burden of not being told anything, I guess. They just didn't know anything.
So, like, they have this stereotypical training arc where the main character is supposed to, like, figure out how the power system works in, like, a clever way, and that's, like, how they beat him. Drake just says, fight me with mana. Like, it's a 2v1 me. And I'm like,
yeah.
Why didn't you let him figure that out? You just literally told him how the combat system works. That was what happened in Shaman King. Imagine if someone was like, oh, bro, you got to put your soul in the sword if you want to beat me.
I do sort of like the moment where they're like, we're too stupid to fight with tactics, but it also feels like the author giving up a little bit.
The author's like, I'm too stupid to come up with interesting tactics.
I don't know if I would go that far necessarily, but...
Yeah. I just want to make sure we discuss. There was some weird sexualization of the female characters where they continue to show them in their underwear for no reason.
Yeah, because that's the only way that you can see how the evils have, the seed of evil has progressed, is to be naked, as one does.
I was grateful that there was underwear.
Well, this is a shonen manga, Jordan.
I mean, look, there have been a lot of shonen manga that do these, like, leering angles and stuff where it's like, oh man, you're just barely not seeing the bits. But here it was just like, nah, they're just in their underwear.
Here you go.
It felt like kind of,
you do or you don't, right? Like,
that's what it is. It's like, well, how else am I supposed to show this? It didn't feel like you went overboard with it.
But you still made the choice anyway.
Exactly. You still made the choice anyway. Thank you.
You wanted it, but you couldn't not make it weird.
Yeah.
But you're kind of in this in between.
It's a lot.
I feel like there's a missed opportunity maybe here about, I mean, we're in this kind of like this world and the system like that has such an emphasis on, I can't not make this sound weird, but like the bodies of these girls, right? Like and sort of like how they're seen in society and how they're treated. It felt like there wasn't really any kind of desire to unpack that further. But while I was rereading it, I was thinking like, there was something here. Maybe more consideration could have been put into like how the setting views like the way that they talk about like, oh yeah, basically like 1 in 10 girls like sacrifice their bodies basically, like, or like only 1 in 10 survive.
It's like 1% of people survive the witchification process, right?
Yeah, which feels not very useful.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. This is the most blatant, like, this is the author's, like, first, like, series, really.
Oh, for sure.
You can just tell how many things this author didn't understand. Like, the author had this issue where he was trying to shortcut scenes, like, how Oda does, but he didn't understand when to use that tool, so it seems like a bunch of continuity mistakes. Like, when they're sneaking up on the watchtower, they didn't even say how they even got to the watchtower, and then they just kind of teleport behind the tower with, like, a really stupid jumping scene, which didn't make sense how the normal humans did that technique to get over the tower. And it's just like, sit and actually think about how this fucking anything in the series works, because it doesn't make sense if you actually put logic towards anything.
There are scenes like I can let myself get washed over in the vibes, but I feel like there are also like there's a little bit too much of that, and you're just like, yeah, you start to feel it more and more. That like, yeah, the kind of the world building and the setting just needed a little more time in the oven.
Can I also just say, I was extremely confused over how many people knew how much about witches. It seemed to vary a lot. Like,
Yes.
because it's like, first of all, like David said, it's like, it seems like an extremely torturous process. And yet, like, Manasfa shows like a flashback of her being like, I want to be a witch. And it's like, does nobody notice like all these girls dying?
Right.
Has nobody noticed this?
That high of a failure rate, you would think like this, it would be something that's like, it would be like noble almost to want to like do that to yourself. But no, it just kind of seems like I feel like everybody in this world just kind of like is withholding crucial information from each other.
Yeah, just because the author didn't have it sorted out.
Or here's another thing. I'm just thinking about this right now. People don't realize that the witch has to die at like young for some reason. What do they think happens when a new witch shows up? Like,
They went to a farm upstate.
Like, where'd the old one go? Yeah, putting out old Yeller, 14-year-old old Yeller.
You figure they notice, oh, the previous witch is gone now. Like, I feel like it's not just who knows, it's like, how do they not know that this is happening?
I think if one thing is true is that this system sucks, and I can see why our heroes are going to try and change it, but...
Yes.
The last thing I want to talk about is really just like the morality of this series is so blatantly black and white, where everyone who's good is extremely good. Everyone who's evil is so blatantly evil. Like, they didn't even have the balls to make the bad guys kind of have a good point where these are actually very dangerous weapons and these necessary, because they're like, oh no, we can't have you sympathizing with the bad guys. We have to have them have other traits that also make them terrible, along with having an arguably justifiable position on this topic,
I was really disappointed while I was reading the arc with Claude and whatnot. I was really into it from like a thematic standpoint, and then they introduced the Rector, who is just like the most like objectively evil cartoon villain, and I'm like,
oh my god, the Rector.
All of the potential nuance that this had, like he starts busting out like owl helicopters. I'm like,
Babby's first villain.
In Miscellaneous Thoughts, we got to talk about the shoes, but not right now.
We do have to talk about what it did well, so shall we move into that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, also, this was a ripoff of Attack on Titan, just to make sure we get that out there.
Before we go on, it's like Attack on Titan if the Titans don't even fucking matter even remotely.
Right.
The evils do nothing. They do absolutely nothing.
Attack on Titan didn't invent fantasy settings with big walls and monsters coming. I don't think Attack on Titan owns that. I think Fafner biting into his thumb is where I was like, all right.
I mean, it was also like at its cultural peak when this came out.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
It's like he started at Attack on Titan and was like, fuck it, I'm doing Zatch Bell.
God. All right, fuck it. Well, let's talk about things that did well, so right?
Yeah.
Brandon, I know you take me as a positive guy, so why don't you tell me, what were you so excited to talk about the series in terms of things that did well?
I actually think Fafner and Manasfa's dynamic is sort of like the core.
Yeah.
I actually really like watching them interact because they do have this, they feel very brother and sister, right? And I could totally imagine that this author probably has siblings and can understand. Like, yeah, there's a little bit of that, like, we're all working for the same goal, but we're going to rib each other. We're going to kind of get at each other's heels a bit. But like when the chips are down, like we're going to learn how to work together.
Yeah.
And so those aspects I was actually super down for. And I think even on this reread, that's probably the strongest aspect is that core dynamic works even if the maid is just kind of there to round out the trio. But I do think that the core main character dynamic, but the dynamic works. It's classic, but it works.
I think that if you zoom out, there are things in this series that are potentially interesting. Like we were talking about this system, you were talking about like how the world kind of treats these girls' bodies. There is room for social commentary there. There is room to actually like try and say something.
Yeah.
You could really get into something interesting there. This is the positive section, so I'm not going to talk about how the execution went, but I'm just saying.
Speaking of, the series has a lot to do with poor executions.
Oh!
Yeah. Every manga's got at least one interesting idea.
Here's the thing. I'm a sucker for 2-on-2 battles. It's like so underdeveloped. It's so cool. Like, I love reading Demons of the Shadow Realm. If y'all are familiar with that, that's by the creator of Fullmetal Alchemist, which is weird that not a lot of people read the new series by the creator of Fullmetal Alchemist, but that's explicitly about 2-on-2 battles. It's like kind of like Pokemon, but everyone gets 2 like Pokemon with them, which is really cool. Yeah, so that's like a fun idea. And then there is that hint of the psychological drain where it's like the main character like does have a lot of self-doubt, which I think is a really interesting topic. It's again very poorly executed, but it is nice to actually see main character admit he has limitations, a desire to grow strong, and just knowing that he will have to evolve and grow as a person, self-actualize if he wants to meet the challenges that he's going to have to experience in this adventure.
I will say, like, as generic as Fafner may be, I think he's pretty likable, you know?
You want to root for him.
You want to root for him. He's like, he's a good guy. And, you know, he's really had to, like, work and train for where he is right now. He went through a traumatic event that was similar to what Eren Yeager went through. But, yeah, no, you want to root for the guy.
I'm a sucker for like characters with big dreams, you know, like especially establishing that like, hey, yeah, this whole system of witches like kind of sucks for everybody. So I really understand why they want to change this system. And like it is such an overwhelming task to try to do, right? And sort of having the characters kind of admit like, yeah, we're way in over our heads here, but like, gosh darn it, we're going to try our best anyway. You know, again, I feel like that's also very, very cliche and very classic, but you know, it's easy to want to root for characters in that situation.
Yeah, except you don't actually ever see any consequences of it.
No,
because Drake just comes and levels them up to be able to play with the big boys.
Mini negative section here. Tiny little negative section here, all right? It seems like they're constantly like, oh man, they're almost going to transform. She's almost going to transform. Like the end of chapter 1, they're like, oh man, Manasfa's going to transform any second or something. You got to kill her before that happens. And then apparently it's like, nah, you got enough time. You actually have enough time to fill out what's definitely going to be a 100 plus chapter series.
Yeah, they said she has 6 months.
Do they specifically?
I think they said she had 6 months.
Oh, I might have missed that.
I missed it to see the series also.
I mean, listener, I'll see if I can find it when they mention it, but listener, if I'm wrong, you can comment in it.
They needed, I believe you too, but this series, this happened with the collar around her neck too, where it's like they might have introduced it, but they introduced it with like a passing mention.
Oh yeah, it's kind of gone. It's sort of brought up and not talked about again.
It's not talked about until suddenly it's like, whoa, she's breaking her collar. And it's like, she had a collar? What? I missed that.
Yeah.
God, it's so stupid. Also, I want to say the art is at least respectable. I've definitely seen far worse art.
I've seen worse, but I mean, I've seen a lot that is better.
We've read Zahn.
Yeah, we've seen the absolute worst dog shit, David. It's like the art's in this weird place where like it seems at first glance like it's good, and then you kind of look at it more and you're like, this is not good. Like,
Jordan, I had like 3 bullets for the positives. Just let it have this.
Okay, so we're still in the positives. I'll save my thought then.
All right. Well, on that note, why don't we go into where it could have gone then? Brandon, was your thought related to that, if you want to kick things off, or was it something different?
I'm probably going to forget if we don't talk about it, but just like on the topic of art and I guess where it could have gone, because it is sort of like an adventure manga, you know, where they're trying to get from one place to the next, right?
Yeah.
This might be a hot take. Actually, no, maybe it's not that hot take for a shonen manga. But like, I think this manga would be a lot better if it didn't have fights, just straight up.
Yeah. The fights are really stupid.
The fights are really
not
rough.
Good.
They're really, really rough. And I think if it focused more on, because like, it doesn't really spend that much time in each individual location. And I know, you know, by a certain point, you know that you're gonna have to wrap it up. So I get that, but like they basically get to like they said like we have 7 stops on our way to Noir, and we get to 2 of those.
Yeah.
And it really feels like they are so much more about fighting people at those places rather than letting those places build out the setting. So I really think for how much time they take up and for how really kind of not great the action is, I think it would be much stronger if it was more adventure and less like fighty fights. Because yeah.
Also, I'm sorry, we need to see a witch turn into an evil.
Yeah, that's one of my main bullets was like, we don't actually ever see this, or I guess probably one of the twists is like all the evils are witches, or like they didn't even introduce like some super powerful evils that we'll later find on are the witches when they fully corrupt or something like that.
Yeah.
Because that could have been what kicks their dick in is like a fully corrupted witch, right?
Yeah.
I feel like the first place they visit would be a good time for that.
Yeah.
I 100% agree that regardless of whether the series has any fights or not, they should not have been this 2v2 witch guardian thing. This did not work. I really don't think it was a good idea.
In like a formal way, right? Like, I think you could still have like 2-on-2s, but to have this sort of like weirdly both over and under explained system of like tuning your magic through another person, like because clearly I think on that level the author kind of ran out of steam really fast. So if it was just fights that happen to be 2v2s, or even, you know, like again they fight evils like once, and
I think like one
Fafner-
chapter.
Yeah.
One chapter really briefly. That's what I feel like it should have been. Like this, you're right, this should have been more of an adventure manga. Like we should find out, you know, more about the evils that are out there. But it's like, no, we have to get them to a town immediately. No, I want to see them like go through this wilderness or whatever and run into like the
They have to
dangers.
survive the British wilderness.
You could delete Gen from this manga entirely and replace that with like 4 more chapters of them like staying in that village and learning about the world and the setting.
Oh God.
It's so badly needed cool down chapters.
Yeah.
Where you almost think they're gonna do shit where it's like, oh, they're just hanging out, we're learning about the world. Like, no. We have to have these fucking guillotine guys show up for no reason, have a fight scene instead of him actually being able to organically learn about the world.
It's like 5 different manga entirely.
Completely different manga.
It feels like he like got dropped into a fantasy setting. You're like, here's this. Yes.
You have brought up something very important that I almost forgot, which is I fucking hated Gen.
Yeah.
Fucking sucks. He's so bad.
Maybe the biggest early red flag where I was like, okay, here's our first enemy, and he feels like he would be the protagonist in another manga, and there's not really like he's very generic, I guess.
He's like the shittiest version of Black Star from Soul Eater.
Yeah, I mean, every shonen manga has that character who's just like, you know, they're just really stupid and they love to fight and they're a little rude.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really anything else about him that made him stand out.
Other than he was just a douche.
It's a really bizarre first enemy, and it makes you wonder if like he was being set up to become like a friendly rival at some point. But I really think like chapter 3 or 4 is way too early for that.
Yeah, he literally tortures his witch.
He tortured his witch.
The series makes it, if you are bad, you have to be unquestionably evil.
Yes.
His witch summons an Iron Maiden to torture herself with, and he's like, her pain makes my powers stronger. Like,
Yeah, there's no time to unpack any of that.
No. But that's definitely what was going to happen. Like, he was definitely going to be their friend because in the final chapter, they're hanging out and they're like, ah, man, they finally did it. They really did it. Like, as if they were like,
Wow.
they were going to be like their rivals. Yeah.
And they completely like, they have like proof that there is a witch cure. So why do they never bring this up to any of the other witches that are trying to fight them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. If this hadn't been about fighting, it would have been a much more interesting series.
Because the fights take up so much time and they're so over explained that it really feels like you can't really get a sense of momentum because every character is talking all of the time while they're fighting.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I feel like that is also a very like classic shonen formula kind of thing. But
Well, talking is a free action.
yeah.
It felt like the author put so much effort into world building in the first chapter and then just abandoned all of it.
Yeah.
I feel like a symptom of the series having been good is if Nata had a purpose, because she has no action. She cannot fight. So the fact that she becomes useless in the last like 80% of the series shows how fucking warped the series got.
Right.
Which is weird that she should be the most like knowledgeable of them. So I feel like, you know,
I thought she was going to get like Drake, be like Drake's understudy and learn like his shit.
yeah,
That would have been really cool.
Yeah.
Why not bring Drake along? He's not doing anything.
Yeah, what if Mana like couldn't fight because she's like too close? So we have, you know, Nata actually teaming up with Fafner and using those seeds.
So, Brandon, there is this thing that we've noticed happens every now and then where it just feels like, you know, we saw it with Red Hood, we saw it with Service Wars, where it's like, man, it feels like an editor just walked in and decided to ruin this manga. It feels like the editor walked in after chapter 1 and was like, nah, you got 2 guys there? Nah, make it a 2-on-2 thing. Just do that. Because like the entirety of the first chapter never alluded alludes to that being a thing. And then just suddenly after that, like, it felt like the entire series had to just scramble to suddenly make it about that thing.
Yeah, I definitely think sudden pivots. It's a classic Shonen Jump kind of move, right?
And speaking of sudden pivots, let's get into miscellaneous thoughts.
Yeah.
Sorry if that was too sudden. I just thought.
Oh, that was good. That was good.
Oh, so for the record, by the way, I did check. In chapter 2, Nata says she has at most 6 months left, or half a year left. So yes, they do establish she has 6 months left.
Cool.
But yeah, and then I also love how when they're jumping off of the wall, the author clearly didn't actually know a way to make the character survive what is like 100-foot fall. So he just doesn't show how they survive that fall off of the wall in the first chapter.
Doesn't he say when they're falling, I'm just going to stick my sword into the wall?
Oh, yeah.
They don't show it.
Yeah.
He just says he's going to do that.
Clearly the editor was like, dude, how are they surviving this fall? And he's like, I'll add a speech bubble explaining it.
I'm a big fan of like big emotional moments really overtaking kind of like the moment to moment logic of a situation. But I feel like there's no buildup. Like if there was like an emotional core to them really wanting to escape, I feel like you just got to show them doing it. But like there isn't any kind of like, oh man, I've waited my whole life for this moment. So we're just going to get there. It is just one of those things that just kind of happens. And so you don't really feel like it's earned. It hasn't earned the logical hand wave.
It's interesting you bring that up because I've noticed that one of the things that separates a good manga from a bad manga, maybe a good story from a bad story that I've learned and as we've been reading it is just how they handle buildup.
Yeah, for sure.
Like bad manga have no buildup. Things just suddenly happen. Good manga spends a long time like making you care that something might happen before it happens.
And that's, I feel like a very classic kind of writing thing, right? Where it's like, you know, to properly structure a story, it's like, you know, this happens and because of that, this happens and because of that, this happens, yada, yada, yada. But I feel like when you're struggling, you just got to get them from point A to point B, whatever way you can.
You're just afraid that if there's not something exciting going on at all times, your readers are going to get bored.
Well, the problem isn't so much this happens, so this happens. The problem is it's more, well, why should I care that this is happening?
Sure, yeah.
Why should I care about the things that are happening right now in this chapter that I'm reading?
Yeah.
Which Guardian of the Witch does not do. Okay, we are in miscellaneous thoughts, so now, guys, I have to do it. I have to talk about the shoes.
Go for it.
Oh, the fantasy trip.
So fucking... We were talking about how the bad guys are unquestionably bad. One of the ways the author shows this, incredible. The rector approaches one of his guardians and he's like, I noticed that your shoes are falling apart because you've been working so hard and you've been like out there just searching and like working really hard for us. Look, in my hand, I am holding brand new, perfectly good shoes, you know, right here. But you don't need them. And he just throws them behind him.
Yeah.
And he's like, you gotta keep going. And it's like, what the fuck?
I feel like gaslighting 101 is like you have to convince the person you're gaslighting that like you're correct, right? You can't be so on the nose about it.
It's such a weird and petty thing. It's really funny. Like, there's a part after that where Claude is like a frightening man indeed, which makes me think that was supposed to be like a scary moment, kind of.
Right, like, this is my way to intimidate you. It is like, I got the newest sneaker drop, but you can't have it.
Yo, fuck your shoes, bitch.
You don't want them, do you?
I don't know why I completely forgot about this scene until you mentioned it. They just waste all these pages on him talking about shoes.
He stabs a snake too, like right before that.
Yeah.
Just like,
Where did that snake come from? Don't they not have snakes in England?
Yeah, because of St. Patrick, right? Or that's Ireland, right?
That's Ireland, but it's a similar biome. I don't think England also has snakes.
I mean, I'm sure he didn't like expel them to put them right in the place that is right next to them. That wouldn't make sense. But no, I mean, I think he kills that snake and then lets its blood drip into his chalice.
Wine or something, yeah.
I just can't, like, so unsubtle. It's so unsubtle.
It's the least subtle thing.
Like, I'm surprised there isn't a character that's called, like, Dittler, you know? You know, and he's like, oh, we gotta kill the witches after we're done eradicating this group of people, right?
The
God.
church is evil. The church is evil.
Did you know that? The offer was too subtle. I didn't pick up.
Rector damn near killed her. Okay, I had to say that at some point. I'm sorry.
What a knee slapper.
Ooh.
I also love how when he's fighting the steel magic guy, how is everyone getting blunt wounds from metal magic, which was clearly piercing and cutting?
Metal Magic, my favorite secret Pantera album. Can we talk about Executor?
Yeah, oh yeah, your favorite thing in this manga.
This was so weird. So at one point, Gen uses a power that makes his fists get covered in iron, and he's like, Executor's fist. And I'm like, haha, my dad's a lawyer. I know that Executor only is not executioner. It refers to somebody who executes a will and the stipulations on the will, you know? And then Brandon, you went back to the original Japanese, and it turns out
Yeah, that's what it is. It's not a typo.
that wasn't a typo.
Yeah.
It was the word for executor.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
All of his abilities carry that female. We didn't get to see it, so his next attack was going to be power of attorney.
I'd believe it.
That'd be amazing.
If we've got the Iron Maiden, we're in full
God.
But no, but you think that and you would think execution.
Yeah.
But no.
That's why I thought it was a typo.
Is this whole thing about the legal system and justice and I don't know.
We live in
I
a
don't know.
society, bottom text.
We do live in a society.
A guardian and also a lawyer.
Coming to you on it sounds like an NPC where it's like he's a guardian and a lawyer and he's slowly turning into a dog.
Incredible.
All right, just for the sake of time, let me read out some fun facts from MaxyBee before we move on. They said this series has a remarkable amount of text handwritten in English, notably mostly for being clearly written and mostly making sense. And as this is also true of his early one-shots, it seems that the author actually has a decent grasp of English.
Huh.
Do you, Brandon, when you see a series and they already just have some text in English, are you just like, oh, hell yeah? Or do you still have to do something with that?
Depends on how many typos there are.
Oh, okay.
I do remember fixing some stuff in Guardian of the Witch. I could not tell you what or when or where, but I remember having to adjust English on a couple of occasions. But
is there any series where you actually make the manga may fluently know English? There's just all the English is perfect in it?
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Is there a manga you were reading and you were just like, this guy has no clue what the fuck he's talking about with English?
Well, it's usually more of how would I put this? They spell things in ways that, for example, in Kaiju number 8, sometimes the manga author, he spells out Kaiju in the Kaijyu, which is not incorrect, but it's not how we would spell it. That's not how we romanize Japanese in a modern way, but it's not incorrect either necessarily.
That makes sense though. Yeah.
Yeah. And the same way that I saw this in the Shonen Jump release, and I feel like my editor told me not to change it, but I don't know why. But there's one panel in Guardian of the Witch where Manasfa's name is spelled out Manasufa in English. So
I remember that. Yeah.
Manasufa. Yeah, I feel like I would have caught that, and I vaguely remember I don't know if we hadn't figured out the spelling yet, because sometimes we ask Japan for clarification on those things. Yeah, I don't remember, and I don't remember if we changed it in the volume.
What's funny is that I don't remember that from this read, but I remember it from the last time we covered this. I remember being confused. Yeah, maybe it was fixed. I don't know.
It was 4 years ago. That was completely memory hold.
I appreciate the fun facts. And unfortunately, though, MaxyBee has some other fun facts that we just don't have enough time to cover, but you can always find them in the research notes that we post on the Patreon. So why don't we get into final verdict? How does that sound? So let's get into some 6-word summaries from our community. From Tucker, a business transaction in comic form. MaxyBee, we have double arts at home.
Ooh. That's fucking mean.
Aura Paladin said bizarre, yet somehow not bizarre enough. Bubba Bass said great value is a Pele Ex Machina Go, and bad writing, use a time skip. TM. MHM said become a witch's Pokemon Sword Boy. Chicken Warlord, divinely talented school recruitment, embarrassingly forceful. Diego says Strawberry Punch was the better one shot. Dude Rocks, it's a very de-witchingly mediocre manga. Generic Man, magical girls become witches. Deja Vu. Glornak Arnspawn, kind of worse the second time around. I think I'm liking this less the second time.
Yeah, I can relate.
Maybe it's just that I have more experience reading manga.
Yeah.
And judging it now, but yeah, I don't remember it being this bad the first time.
Yeah, I remember when Beast Children we thought was rock bottom, and man, did we not know how we'd keep digging.
Yeah.
Captain Clueless says, just go read Witch Watch. Oh, fuck, that was, just go read Witch Watch instead. Correct opinion, and that was going to be my recommendation. Mara says, guard underage now damning all mankind. Portalman, Attack on Satch Bell's bastard child. Quack, 5 years later, still not legal. Redblade, this manga was a training arc. God, training arc in like chapter 7, I can't believe it. Riel says, I wish Nahata was relevant, don't we all? Sorry, I wish Nata was relevant, don't we all? Spike says, which witch was the witch? T. Wolfwood says, witches only live to suffer, eh? And mangaka continually depreciates the world building. Lord Anubis took the wrong lessons from BC. And Brandon, what was your 6-word summary?
Show him a thing or three.
It's fucking your bridge. I love it.
Which is a quote from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which is also a fantasy setting with a dual battles and a girl with fire powers with red hair.
Oh my god.
Dubbed by British people. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and also dubbed by British people.
Jenna Louise Coleman's in it. It's great.
Huh.
Jordan, how about you? What was your 6-word summary?
Guardian of... I already forgot. Because this is the most forgettable fucking series.
Did you need some more time to finish your 6-word summary?
Shut up, David. This is the most forgettable fucking series.
God, yeah.
After we read this series, I don't think I thought about it once.
This is some Icehead Gill shit.
I'll remember Icehead Gill before I'll remember this one. I might remember this one more now because I didn't realize how shit it was the first time we read it. Like, oh my god. How about you, David?
I had two. Mine was Fire Magic burns out the plot. And then this one, I really liked it, but someone said something similar where I said, man, imagine if England was real. Which is a riff on, I don't know if you're familiar, Brandon, with the series Champagne.
No.
Yeah.
This is like one of our favorite 6-word summaries where someone said, let me see if I can find who it was.
Champagne is a series about champagne and drinking champagne. And it is, oh my god.
Sounds sweet.
Horrible.
Oh.
It's just about boomers talking about how great it is to be a rich old person.
Yeah, and how champagne reminds them of being young. Like,
there was like a professor who like they helped out and then he gave them a reservation as like a thank you, but he didn't say he wasn't also going to pay for it.
Wow.
So he got them the reservation, but then meant them pay for their own food.
Awesome.
and it was like, oh, that old guy, you know?
Oh yeah, this is from Dude Rocks where he said from Champagne, makes me wish France was real. So that's why I wanted to, because I was like, it's too similar to Dude Rocks, which was an all-timer. So we all thought this really sucked. I guess the question is, Jordan, is this a flop or a certified flop? I really didn't think I put this into consideration for certified flop, but I'm kind of thinking it might be.
This is definitely certified. Like, it's weird. It's coherent in a way that some of the worst certified flops are. I don't know if I'd say it's like the worst certified flop, but it is absolutely one of those.
Yeah.
It is absolutely certified flop. It's like, this is bad.
Oh yeah, it is. We had an F tier, so I guess we thought it really was shitty last time we reviewed it.
Wow.
Oh God.
So Brandon, do you agree? Would you consider this a certified flop?
What's the difference actually?
Would you use the word bad or terrible to describe it?
Oh, okay. Definitely more bad. More bad than terrible.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, you wrote it, so I understand.
It's
Like,
true.
Right. I have a little bit of attachment to it.
It is your child.
You guys have been dissing me this entire podcast. And I've just been taking every single blow.
I'm so sorry. Please forgive us.
Oh God.
Jordan, since you consider this a certified flop, what should someone check out instead?
So this is like totally unrelated to Guardian of the Witch. I've just been really liking Smiling Friends season 2.
Oh, that's the latest episode.
It's been really good.
God, what a stupid show.
It's so good.
I'm still waiting for the Smiley Friends Take Manhattan.
Oh my God.
And then I kind of want it to be a recap of the episode where they're stuck in the airport.
The Brazil one is
Such a stupid episode.
What's amazing about that series is that I've never seen a show nail speech patterns as well as Smiling Friends, where it's just like they have arguments like, no, that's a real argument.
I love it. Brandon, what would you say someone should check out?
Well, if you're thinking about fantasy manga that ran in Weekly Shonen Jump that I lettered, you should read Red Hood instead.
Oh, speaking of authors absolutely hating their editor, do you know anything about the drama that happened? Because that was like unapologetic blaming his editor on what happened to that series.
No, I don't know what the editors at Viz hear. I hear nothing. None of that trickles down to me.
Got you.
If you ever are able to find out, because like you can tell the ending, the author just clearly was like, this manga got ruined by my editor.
It is one of the most entertaining endings to a manga.
Yeah.
I think
It's
I've
amazing.
I think we said it wasn't a flop just given how crazy the ending is.
Yeah, maybe one of the most like those final 3 or 4 weeks, I was just like, what is, oh my goodness.
Because here's the thing. Red Hood starts strong, falls apart, and then gets really interesting at the very end.
God, I can't wait for the author's next series.
Oh my God.
I think he's doing some Muscle Girl manga now.
Good.
That was a one-shot, right?
I don't know.
Well, maybe it's getting a full series. I don't know.
The author should do Muscle Girl things. He's very good at that.
He clearly likes it.
I love how someone said the migration from Hades to Hades 2 was going from himbos to muscle mommies. And what a fantastic trade deal that was.
I said the term muscle mommies to Steph, my girlfriend, and it disgusted her.
Yeah.
That term horrifies her.
Especially because your girlfriend is very tall.
Yeah.
Anyway, my recommendation was going to be Witch Watch, which everyone should read.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a good series. I fucking the latest chapter the 2 weeks ago, it's the author just doesn't give a shit about anything, and I love it. But since that was it, I guess I will just recommend Demons of the Shadow Realm. Again, it's by the creator of Fullmetal Alchemist. I don't understand why it's not really popular. It's just weird, right?
Yeah.
According to you, it's good.
It's very good. So everyone should just go read Demons of the Shadow Realm. It's because they gave it such a stupid fucking name.
Yeah.
I almost worked on it. If you're wondering why I turned down a manga by the creator of Fullmetal Alchemist, I did not have time.
Totally fair.
Otherwise, I would have done it.
The title sounds like a Yu-Gi-Oh episode.
Exactly. I don't know what a better title was, but it wasn't that. All right. But then, Jordan, this is certified flop. I don't think it's the worst certified flop we ever read. I think we are good to go to wrap up.
Yeah.
Brandon, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a treat having someone on the inside being on our show. Where can they find all the awesome things you do?
I'm at Brandon Bovia on Twitter. I'm still calling it Twitter. You can just look up my name. I'm there. I'll talk about / rant sometimes about the work and sort of if you want just like a little peek into the inside baseball, or you just want to learn a little bit about what it takes to letter a manga, or if you just want my hot opinions on video games, that's
hell yeah.
I co-host a One Piece read-through podcast with my friend Derek on his YouTube channel. So look up One Piece at a time. We are currently about to start Marineford, so.
Nice.
Now that's a good arc. Oh, that was the arc I was talking about.
Yeah. At that point in One Piece, it was just banger arc after banger arc after banger arc.
God, Oda don't miss.
Yeah.
God.
That run is incredible.
And then he had Fishman Island where he stumbled, but that's okay. He did better after that. I also want to say, Jordan, you know who doesn't miss is you. So thank you so much for making the opening ending theme and being a great co-host and helping with editing.
Oh, thank you so much, David, for all the work you do. Hit or miss. Guess they never miss. Yeah.
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
Props to Merliel for the awesome cover art. Find her online at Lyle Mur, and Nigel for being our generous art benefactor. I can't believe he's been paying you for art for like 4 years.
Holy shit.
What a great guy.
What a Chad.
Thank you so much, Nigel.
Thank you, Dylan, for assistance with editing. Find his podcast, Anime Out of Context, at animeoutofcontext.com. Thanks to Tucker and MaxyBee for assistance with pronunciation, translation, other miscellaneous research. Find us on X at Shonen Flopcast, Tumblr, Shonen-Flop, our website, shonenflop.com. We're also on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, or wherever else you get your podcast. Come join the Shonen Flop Discord. Open to everyone, patron or not. Hang out with us, talk about anime, games, or whatever else is on your mind. We have a lot of really fun conversations about manga there, no surprise. You can find a link to it in the show notes or on our site. And if you've been enjoying the podcast and want to help us keep going, consider subscribing to our Patreon. We just hit our goal of $400 for 4 years. Super stoked. Still doing a promo where anyone who upgrades and becomes a new patron, I'll send you a set of Ravioli Magic the Gathering tokens, little goblin tokens featuring my adorable puppy Ravioli. You get monthly episodes, the Shonen Drop, where Jordan and I talk about each month's episode, and you could even be listening into us recording right now or the warm-up audio. And Jordan, what is the exclusive content we are dropping this month for our patrons?
Well, David, this month we are catching up on our chibi guesses and our art rankings.
Yeah, so you can hear an inside scoop and see how well Jordan and I guess about, based on the first chapter, how well we guess.
Yeah.
And you can find us at patreon.com/shonenflop, and I want to read some of our wonderful patrons. First, I want to give a big thank you to our dolphin dads, Gornak, Rachel, my wonderful wife. She just ordered me some cake I'm going to eat after this. And use plenty of teeth. Blokes love teeth. Drives them crazy. Moving on down to the Ravioli tier, where you get weekly photos of my adorable goblin dog. She was hiccuping, and so I gave her the Heimlich maneuver, and then she farted, because she's just She's just a silly fucking dog, you know? We have Chris, Eva, Lady T, Matt T, and one of our newest patrons, Tiffany, and Trevor Scheckner.
Hey,
Moving on down to the King of the Forest, we have 090Z, Bandit Stew,
my girlfriend.
Brad, who just upgraded to help us hit our Patreon goal, Chad Mason, Gas Snake, Jacob Andrew Galloway, Justin Hafner, Kirby Mun, Marty, Max, Riley 3.14, Hydra, T. Wolfwood, and Tommy Boy. And a big thank you to our Galactic Ball Federation officers and our Beast Children.
Yes, thank you so much. I love all of you.
And then, Jordan, anything you want to toss in?
Yeah, by the time this episode comes out on the Mission Ignition feed, we should have our interview up where I talk to an actual motivator about vampires to figure out what happened. What happened on that show? How did that get made?
Okay.
Brandon, have you ever heard of vampires? And that is VAN as in Nancy -PIRES?
No.
It's an interesting show that only I saw in the 90s.
And Casey Green.
Casey Green saw it years later. I watched it during its run.
You were there first.
That's the thing. I was there. I'm an OG fan.
All right. Well, let's get into the sign-offs. Thank you so much for joining us. Tune in next Monday as we give our first thoughts on Mama Yu Yu.
Mama Yu Yu.
This has been David.
This has been Jordan.
This has been Brandon.
And you've been listening to Shonen Flop.
Keep on flopping floppers 4 more years. 4 more years. Woo!
Yeah. Why are you booing me? I'm right. I love that show. All right. Bye.